ChatGPT is a powerful tool that can write all sorts of things for you, including Blender scripts. Last video we introduced ChatGPT and we got some very interesting results, so if you haven't seen it, check that out first. It should be on the top of the screen right now. And speaking of that video, it did really well. I want to thank everyone who commented, who liked the video, who saw the video, everyone who subscribed, and a special thanks to all the people on screen now who commented. I learned a lot from your responses. I was actually quite surprised by how well it did, considering I really could have said a lot more about the limitations and troubleshooting. So that's exactly what we're gonna do today. We're gonna go through 2 more examples, and along the way I'll tell you about some tips you can apply when you either don't get a good response or when your script doesn't work inside Blender. So without further ado, let's go on to the first example, which is automatically naming all your materials. So we're gonna go to chat.openai.com, which is the website where you can use the chatbot. And the first thing you're gonna do is prime the AI so it knows it has to write a script for Blender. You can do that by just typing create a Python script for Blender and then say what you want it to do. And as this commenter pointed out, you don't have to do this every time you write your prompt, because ChatGPT will remember that you are working on scripts. So when you ask it to do something else in Blender, it will automatically create a script for you. So I want to make a script that checks the base color of a material and then gives it a name based upon that base color. This will only work when there's nothing connected to the base color. So if you're just working with simple colors, this will be perfect. And we're going to divide it into a few categories, mainly 8 categories for color, and then 3 for saturation, and then 3 for the value. So that's exactly what I'm going to describe to ChatGPT, which brings us to the first tip. You've got to be specific about what you want and give as much detail as possible. If you give it a garbage prompt, it will output a garbage script. So the more you know and the more you can provide to ChatGPT, the better it is. As you can see now, the AI is making a script for me and it seems to be doing an alright job. It's making categories like light green, pale green, light blue, red, I see purple. But trying this out in Blender, it doesn't work. It crashes on an attribute called toHSV because it wants to convert the RGB value to an HSV value. And it's using a function here, but that function makes no sense. This is another problem that you can see with the AI. It will confidently say that something works, even though it doesn't. Even when asking ChatGPT to use a different method to convert it to HSV, it will not work in this case. So how on earth are we gonna convert the RGB to HSV if the AI can do it? This is the time when you gotta dive into the documentation for the Blender API. And sure enough, after a while, I found different ways to convert RGB to HSV. It just needed me to import the color sys module. And once I know this information, I can just give this information to the AI and ChatGPT will actually fix my script with the information that I've given it. So here you'll see that it now imports the color sys and it will use this line instead to convert the RGB value to an HSV value. So yeah, that's a very important tip. You cannot rely 100% on ChatGPT to find you the right answer. There are some good methods on finding new ways how to access some data properties or some operations. For instance, you can open this info window and whenever you do anything inside the program, the info window will log it. And it will log it as a usable function within Blender. So for instance, if you want to move something, it will appear here. It says bpi.ops.transform and you can say to ChatGPT, okay, rewrite my script but use this function instead. So after using the color sys module, the script at least runs without any errors, but not everything is how it should be. For one, the value is actually flipped. So light objects get named dark and dark objects get named light. There's also something wrong with how the color itself gets named, but let's fix the value problem first. Which is very simple, it just needs to be inverted. So I will just tell the AI and the AI quickly inverts it for me. Let's try it again. Yeah, now it works. It's just light where it should be light and it's dark where it should be dark. So next we gotta fix the problem that it actually doesn't give it the right color name. You're probably familiar with the color wheel, you use it all the time in Blender. So let's see which color gets named to what other color. So yeah, we can see green gets named yellow, blue gets named turquoise, and then yellow gets named orange. Only red seems to work. So if we look at the color wheel, they all seem to get offset by 1/8, since we are making 8 categories after all. We can actually visualize it by drawing a pie chart right on top of that color wheel, because that is actually how we are separating the colors and giving it different names. But it just seems to be offset by 1 slice. This is actually where we find a new shortcoming of ChatGPT. Because when I described the problem to it, it just said, oh, just add 1 here and everything will be fixed. But I already knew that it probably wasn't going to work that way. So looking at it, it seems to work at first. So blue is blue, green is green, yellow is yellow, but red is also being named yellow. And this is precisely what happens when we just add 1 here. So this is one of those times where you just have to experiment and use your mathematical intuition to fix the problem, which is what I did. First thing I did is modify it so it only has 6 categories. It's a bit better when you look at the color wheel itself. And then in the function here, instead of adding +1 at the end, I just added +1/6 to H, which is the hue, and then multiplied it by 5. And if we try it out now, we can see that it actually works perfectly. Red gets named red, green gets named green, and it even has the saturation and the value as well. So something can be light, pale blue, or dark, vibrant red. Only thing it doesn't do at this point is name something white or black or gray. You could probably do that by saying if the saturation is 0, put it into either of these 3 categories. You could just do that by taking my original script and giving that to ChatGPT and just asking for whatever you want. You can always ask follow-up questions to the AI. So yeah, this script automatically names your materials. I'm probably going to use it a lot. Going over to the second example, we're going to try to make a script that packs spheres as close together as possible. There's a certain way spheres can be stacked, so they are as close together as possible. It's called hexagonal close packing. There are different methods on packing spheres, especially when they are varying sizes. But for this example, we're making a hexagonal close packing arrangement. So it actually took a long while to get a good script out of this, so I won't cover the entire journey, but I'll tell you about some things that helped me. One thing that can happen when ChatGPT is writing a very long script is that it just gives up halfway through. It will just stop. And you'll see this button saying regenerate response and it will start from the beginning. But you can just type continue and it will finish the script that it was writing. You can of course also opt to regenerate the response if the response is not to your liking. This can be very useful because it tends to find a different method to achieve what it was trying to do. But I've also had the opposite happen. I've tried to tell the AI to use a different method and it really tried to use the same method, changing it just a tiny few things here and there. So I just reloaded the page and started a new chat. Just started off fresh and then it just gave me a script that worked instantly. So yeah, those are 3 quick tips. You can continue writing your script when it fails, you can regenerate your response, or you can open a new window when it's stuck on all the information that it had in your chat. I eventually asked it to just create 12 spheres arranged in an HTTP pattern. And it didn't work at first, it just outputted 8 spheres in a queue pattern. So that brings me to the next tip. When your script outputs something weird and it's not what you were looking for, describe what the output was to the AI and it might fix it for you. In this case, it did. It created a new script where it just set a range and it actually outputted some sort of pattern. The only problem is that they actually weren't touching each other. It has the right pattern, but the spheres aren't the right size. By scaling these spheres until they barely touched each other, I could see that I would have to be scaled by the square root of 2. So yeah, this AI always seems to be confident, even though it might sometimes be wrong. But nevertheless, the script actually works now. It creates a close hexagonal packing system, and it doesn't even use a number of spheres. You can just set the range for how much you want to pack. So in what space do you want to pack a bunch of spheres? And it just outputs that. So yeah, that concludes this follow-up video on ChatGPT. Let me know in the comments below, are there more problems you face with ChatGPT? Do you know more solutions on how to actually make it work better? I would love to know. With that said, I want to thank you all so much for watching, especially all of you who subscribed. There are like over 200 new people and I'm so amazed. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. After this, I will definitely be making more geometry nodes tutorials. I also want to do way more with the simulation nodes. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.